Fox's Tucker Carlson is trying to distance himself from a white supremacist conspiracy theory he's peddled on his show for years.
You've heard a lot about the great replacement theory recently. It's everywhere in the last 2 days, and we're still not sure exactly what it is.
The issue arose in the wake of last weekend's deadly mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, because of a 180-page racist rant posted by the alleged gunman. In it, he references the Great Replacement Theory, or the idea that there's a nefarious effort to replace white Americans with non-white Americans for political gain. It's nonsense, of course, peddled by white supremacists on the internet. Carlson has mainstreamed this garbage, though, and while Tucker now claims he has no idea what it is, which is not, of course, true, he's pushed the concept more than 400 times on his show in recent years, and here's just a very small sampling.
I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. We've never seen demographic change like this. It's roughly the equivalent of a brand new city of Chicago every year, a city populated entirely by poor people with limited education who can't speak English. And the question is, how is it good for America?
Joining us now is Carl Cameron, founder of FrontPageLive.com and a former Fox News chief political correspondent who decided to leave Fox after 22 years, in part because of people like Tucker Carlson. Carl, my old campaign colleague, great to see you. Do you think the Murdoch family in charge of Fox will ever pull the plug on Tucker? What do you think?
There is a point at which it becomes difficult for an executive to put up with the help. In this particular case, Tucker has been screaming fire in a crowded movie house for years. And that cliche really comes to the matter of what is free speech. And the fact of the matter is, if you disturb the peace by starting a riot in a movie theater, cops are going to arrest you and you might end up in jail, or you might end up in something worse. And that kind of stuff absolutely has to stop, whether it's the antitrust bill to take down and deplatform people who lie and put out falsehoods that cause damage and violent hate. There ought to be something done about it. And the administration is beginning to actually make a move on that. And it's been way overdue. It's not just Fox, it's social media in general, it's on the internet. And we have to remember that a good portion of what people read is coming from folks who aren't Americans, pretending to be Americans in order to gaslight them even worse. And it's great to see you, Jim. We did mark a lot of miles together.
We certainly did, my goodness, you know, and have a lot of stories to tell. Maybe we'll tell those stories one of these days. But Carl, let me ask you, because, you know, and this I think dovetails right into my next question, because you and I have covered a number of CPAC conferences over the years, Conservative Political Action Conference, and now they're gathered in Hungary, of all places, and invited the Prime Minister and longtime Putin ally Viktor Orban to be the featured speaker. And according to The Guardian, among the things Orban said in his speech, that shows like Tucker Carlson should be broadcast 24/7. Let's listen.
Of course, the Grand Old Party has associates in the media, associated media, but they do not compete with the dominance of the liberal press. Only my friend Tucker Carlson places himself on the line without wavering. His new program is the most watched. What does it mean? It means that programs like his should run day and night. As you say, 24/7.
This is not your father's CPAC. I mean, this is weird stuff, Carl. What do you make of it?
It's horrifying. This is the kind of nonsense that we expect in Eastern European countries that were blasted by the Soviet Union for years and years and years. And Orban is a classic sort of an autocratic fascist. And people like Tucker Carlson are participating in spreading that in the United States. There is no place for it. It has to be stopped. The idea of replacement theory is ridiculous. It's a made-up thing. And the fact that there are changes in our demography has always been positive in this country. There was a time when Italians were being racially threatened and damaged just because they were Italians or they were Catholics. That stopped. The same has to stop for Latinos. The same has to stop for Asians and Black Americans. It has been far too long that this country has been letting this go. And now that Republicans, led by Trump for the last few years, are trying to say that that's American politics, it absolutely isn't. And those who pretend to do this are hurting the Constitution and hurting our country. And they're going to pay for it sooner or later.
And Carl, you make such a great point, and it is, it is such a strength of this country, the diversity, this multicultural tapestry that we've all enjoyed for so many years. And you're right, this country just becomes that more perfect union as we grow and welcome all of these new folks into our country year after year. And I just wonder, as we're talking about this, what do you say, because I hear this myself, what do you say to folks who say, oh, you shouldn't talk about Tucker Carlson, you shouldn't talk about this white replacement theory, don't even mention what's going on at CPAC? What do you say to folks who just, I think of it as sticking your head in the sand a little bit. What is your reaction when you hear that from folks?
Well, it's unfortunate. I understand it. Between the pandemic and the politics, there's a lot of things people don't want to think about. The reality about this, however, is this is a free country. And if people of goodwill, the likes of which are in all races, all various different creeds, if we followed what the founders did and never really did right, then we can maintain a democratic republic. At this point, we have a huge portion of the population, led by Republicans and Donald Trump exclusively. We are going down a very, very dangerous road where in other parts of the world, civil rights and civility in general has been decimated by the kind of stuff that's being perpetuated. And it's got to stop. Democrats have to kick it in. The president has to be more forceful. And sooner or later, the law enforcement and the U.S. government is going to have to stop the lying because it's causing people's deaths.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's spot on. And I, if the worst were to happen, do you want to say, well, I wanted to play it safe. I really didn't want to get into this. I didn't want to speak out against it. And so, how would you be able to live with yourself? I think that's the choice that we all face.
Not just in our own neighborhoods, Jim, but around the world. There has been years where the United States was revered by tons of countries who aspired to the type of society that we had. Now they're watching us deal with the kind of nonsense they've been fighting, in some cases for a century.
You're absolutely right. And Carl, and you and I both know from our travels, when we do travel outside of the Beltway, we do talk to people in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. This is what people ask us all the time. What is happening inside the United States? Please, do something about it. Carl Cameron, let's have you back sometime. Great to catch up with you, old buddy. And thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. Great to see you.
Thanks, Tim.
Still looks like a young man there. Carl Cameron. All right, appreciate it. Coming